So my name is Brian Ruiz. I go by he, him, or they, them pronouns. Currently, I'm a senior at Gallatin, concentrating in abolitionist learning and anti-carceral grassroots organizing. And this summer, I focused on my fellowship with Radical Left Consciousness, which is a New York-based grassroots organization. And I would also like to thank everyone who's given like their presentations and their speeches. It's been phenomenal so far in the night. And thank you to all the participants for coming along too. So Radical Left Consciousness, also known as RLC, is a self-funded grassroots collective that is centering the needs of Black, Indigenous, queer, non-binary, women-X, and marginalized groups and other marginalized groups in the city. They focus on this idea of radical love being a verb. It's an action that demands the liberation of all those who have been marginalized and oppressed. And Radical Love does this through one of the ways that Radical Love does this is through their popular learning sessions. And part of their popular learning sessions is creating workshops, classes, and events that go over social, political, economic, spiritual, and like other topics. So my summer project with RLC focused on the restructuring of sessions involving prison abolition and transformative justice. And our goal was to cultivate a space for grassroots organizers, community members, and directly impacted folks from the carceral system to not only envision, but to work towards building entirely new, like to work towards building a post-carceral world, which I'll explain more about that. But RLC sees this post-carceral world through the lens of re-indigenization, which is a twofold process, where part of it is also the abolition of ideals and systems that are through colonization, white supremacy, and patriarchy, but also this cultivation and rememory of ancient modes of knowledge and communal ties. So what is a post-carceral world? So before we go into what is a post-carceral world, we need to look at some of the definitions. The earlier presentation with Dylan just did a phenomenal job on this. But with prison abolition, it signifies not only the dismantlement of carceral spaces and tactics, but also the complete eradication of said oppressive ideologies and systems. And then with transformative justice, here's a book I highly encourage everybody to read, Beyond Survival, Strategies, Stories from the Transformative Justice Movement. It's an amazing book that illustrates what transformative justice is. And basically it is, number one, focusing on the needs and safety of survivors. Number two, like holding those that have committed harm accountable. And number three, eradicating the harm within the community. And as we go into like what is the post-carceral world, the other comments really illustrates like what is this idea. Is not only the elimination of said oppression, but also the cultivation of a founding of a new society. And that new society is a society that focuses on a society with no policing, no surveillancing, no incarceration, but also a society that focuses on accountability, transformative justice too. But unfortunately, we're met with the impact of the pandemic and the global ongoing violence onto marginalized folks. And Radical Love and I, we like start out to like address several of these issues. So for instance, like the freeing of all incarcerated people from COVID-infected spaces, such as Rikers Island, which has been home to like being a hotspot for COVID, and also like not giving like the proper like healthcare to incarcerated folks. Dismantling of the police system, which has been like something that's been really prevalent, especially this whole summer with the unfortunate ongoing like deaths of Black and Indigenous folks. The centering of survivors and victims too. The legal system, the criminal justice system is always discarding survivors and victims. So it's important to like consider like their needs and also cultivating that accountable and safe space. Then we're also seeing the ongoing support towards grassroots organizations or organizers. These are really the foundation of what makes abolition come true and what makes for that work to happen. But it's also our connection to the land too. How do we honor and protect the land? Because carceral spaces bring destruction upon the land through like their ways of environmental hazards. And then the long-term sustainability through global solidarity. Abolition is not just American centered, but happens in like other parts of the world, whether it be in Palestine, Mexico, Haiti, and like different other parts that contribute to their own ways of abolition. And of course, reparations for all marginalized folks. And it kind of like led to the core elements of what this project is about, which is about theorizing, employing the arts, direct organizing, solidarity, accessibility, and long-term sustainability. And some of these projects were like really just interesting that we thought of. So for instance, like we're looking at media and entertainment and how they employ transformative justice. So one of the ways is like looking at how Avatar, Last Airbender, and Finding Nemo are forms of employing this idea of transformative justice. And also looking at how accessible this information can be for like even children, because if children can learn about Columbus and different colonizers at a very young age, then we can also like just think about the ways that they can learn about transformative justice and understand, that's, part of our own step in like, destroying the cop or the colonizer in our head, like Dylan said earlier. Self-defense as resistant and ancestral connections within the movements. Capoeira was used in the Haitian Revolution and in the Quilombos. It was used as a means of liberation, but also as a means of honoring the ancestors. And then looking at how information can be accessible. It can be through audio records, PowerPoint slides, weekly book clubs, zines, or social media threads. Then we have like mutual aid. Mutual aid could simply be like just resources, or it could be like just check-ins too, because people need to have like, people have like different like mental health capacities, so it's important to check in with folks. Then community gardens, thinking about that sustainability and honoring of the land. Like, how are we having a relationship with the land that is not capitalist and colonial? And of course, we have job opportunities for directly impacted folks, especially how COVID has been impacting people's like employment, and our projects to continue on with our forms of employing the arts as a means of liberation. And to me, like what I thought of in my time with Radical Love Consciousness was understanding our roles within the prison abolition and transformative justice movement, and how like these roles can change over time, how these roles can happen at the front lines of protesting, leading healing circles, self-defense, holding space for survivors, and so many other roles. And it's important to understand that, yes, these roles change over time, but it's important about what we do to contribute to said spaces that we're a part of. And then looking at this, it also made me think about the ways of supporting Radical Love Consciousness, because at the end of the day, they are a grassroots organization. They're not funded. They're not nonprofit at all. So it's important to like consider like donations too, and even like if you have access to certain privileges or powers, and consider like donating to Radical Love Consciousness since they're in need of it, and also considering even the ways that we're also complacent in upholding policing or upholding this carceral structure. Oh, and I also like made some resources too. You can find these resources at Arena. The link is right here. The popular education sessions are still in the works, but once they're like done, I'll add them to the resources. And lastly, I want to thank Kim DaCosta and Piper Anderson. They're amazing professors who have really impacted my way of understanding abolition. Bill and Crystal, amazing people who I go to like, just for chats and like that moral support. I really honor them a lot. Judy, who was amazing, helped me out with my application, just an amazing friend overall. And Helika and Marcus, people have like many like late night phone sessions about abolition, just thinking about all these different concepts. My amazing life partner, Sam, who we have ongoing discussions and conversations about abolition. I really love her a lot. And my parents and my little brother too, who I also consider like the ways that even how I have conversations with them about abolition, like how we can like have, all those like different like learning styles, how we can like communicate with each other. And of course, everyone at Radical Love Consciousness, to me, they're my second family, and I truly love them and thank them for all the support they've given me.